I was in Aguascalientes, Peru in July of 2008 at the base of Machu Picchu. I had tried to hike it earlier that day, but due to a concussion and altitude sickness, I couldn't make it to the top with my friend Emmy. It's something that still weighs on me, that I made it through a 5-day hike through the Sacred Valley, but my body wouldn't let me do that last hour and get to one of the most famous peaks in the world. While Emmy hiked Machu Picchu and took photos for me along the way, I went to a local internet cafe. And the first thing that I did was look up movie reviews for the newly released Mamma Mia, which was coming out that day in the United States while I was concussed in Peru. When my mom picked me up a few days later from the airport, my face was a mess. The concussion was from a blown tire on a bike that I had flipped and landed flat on my face. She was horrified by the look of me. She had taken the day off work to pick me up and spend time with me. She asked if we should go to the doctor. I said no, that I had fallen a week ago and was fine and healing. But could we please, on the way home, stop and see Mamma Mia? With my suitcase still in the trunk, we sat in the cool, dark theater, and I watched the movie, and it was everything my self-pitying Aguascalientes heart wanted. Meryl Streep was singing on a cliff, hot men were dancing in swimming fins, and there was enough glitter on screen to feel as though you were covered in it when you walked out. Mamma Mia is a jukebox musical based on ABBA's greatest hits. It hit the stage in 1999 and became a movie in 2008. The movie grossed $611.4 million against a production budget of $52 million. It became the highest-grossing movie directed by a woman, Philippa Lloyd, and held that record for nearly 10 years. Lloyd was the original director of the stage musical and partnered again with the original writer, Katherine Johnson, for the adaptation. The success of Mamma Mia is so huge, it's hard to wrap your mind around. At one point, 1 in 4 households in the UK owned the Mamma Mia DVD. It stars Meryl Streep as Donna and Amanda Seyfried as her daughter Sophie. They run a hotel on a fictional Greek island, and the movie takes place there. Sophie is getting married. The action of the film really gets going when Sophie's 2 best friends and her mom Donna's 2 best friends all arrive on the island for the wedding weekend. The other group of 3 who arrive on the island for the wedding are 3 of Donna's ex-lovers.
I'm Bill Anderson.
Huh?
I'm Bright, Harry Bright.
Sam Carmichael. You are expecting us.
Sophie has been raised as a daughter of a loving single mom without a clear picture as to who her father is. Sophie recently found and read Donna's old diary, and from this sleuthing, she's learned that she has 3 possible fathers.
I want the perfect wedding, and I want my father to give me away.
Better be a wide aisle.
Ow! I will know my father as soon as I see him.
To that end, without telling her fiancé Sky or her mom, she invites her 3 potential dads to her wedding weekend. Donna is horrified to have these 3 men on her island.
I never imagined I'd see all 3 of them in my old goat house, the day before my daughter's wedding.
She's embarrassed by the sight of all of them, but one in particular, Sam, seems to be haunting her the most.
Whatever happened to our love? I wish I understood.
Sam is played by Pierce Brosnan, who has been panned for his singing in the movie. Bill and Harry, played by Stellan Skarsgård and Colin Firth respectively, bring up feelings for Donna, but it's Sam who she's been pining for all these years. Sam, who left her to get married to someone else.
What are you doing here, Sam?
This is our dream, remember?
Sophie, it turns out, cannot tell who her dad is by sight. All three men figure out that they've been invited to the wedding because they might be Sophie's dad. But all three of them are under the impression that they definitely are her dad. So all three stand up at the wedding. It is only at Sophie and Skye's wedding that all of the information comes out. Donna doesn't know who Sophie's dad is. Sophie doesn't care if Donna has slept with hundreds of men.
And I haven't slept with hundreds of men.
And Sophie has a real-time revelation while standing in her wedding dress in front of Skye.
Dearly beloved.
I have no clue which one of you is my dad, but I don't mind. Now I know what I really want. Skye, let's just not get married yet.
She doesn't need to get married. She just wants to be with Skye. So Sam asks Donna, why waste a good wedding?
Are you nuts? I am not a bigamist.
Neither am I. I'm a divorced man who's loved you for 21 years.
And the two reunite. The true love story at the heart of this film is twofold. One is between Donna and Sophie. This mother and daughter duo are trying to figure out how to love each other as Sophie grows up. The other love story is between us, the fans, and the hit songs of ABBA. This movie is one of my all-time favorite movies. I have raised my children right, and so it is now one of their all-time favorite movies. For my 40th birthday, Ariana hosted a sing-along for me. So the real love story here is between me and Mamma Mia. I'm Vanessa Zoltan.
I'm Hannah McGregor.
And this is Hot and Bothered. Hannah, this is one of my all-time favorite movies. I just want to make sure we're not going to ruin this movie for me, right?
No, we're definitely not going to ruin this movie for you.
Oh my God, I love this movie so much.
I mean, I think it's a tricky movie to talk about love in relation to because I think that this movie's really campy, and I want to talk about camp and the way that it challenges the kinds of ways we've been talking about love, but I don't think any of that's going to ruin it because I think the camp is where the joy lies.
I'm really excited to hear you talk about camp because I do think this is campy, and camp is one of those phrases that is so elusive to me that I'm always like, I sometimes know it when I see it, but I can't always tell you what it is.
And that is a perfect summary of Susan Sontag's notes on camp. I sometimes know it when I see it, but I can't really tell you what it is, except she takes like way more words to articulate that.
Here's my theory. So camp, yes, but I have always thought of this movie more as like opera catharsis. And the key moment to me of that is the winner takes it all, which to me is actually the center of this movie.
What a performance.
It's just so perfect.
It's so good. Meryl Streep is so good in this movie. And I know that that is not a groundbreaking statement to say that Meryl Streep is good at acting, but like Meryl Streep is good in doubt, you know? Like she does this gravitas. And in this movie, she's perfect.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, the emotional delivery of Winner Takes It All is the emotional heart of the movie, for sure.
Yes. And so what this movie says about love is that love will break your heart. And like forever, right? Like, and you'll be fine. You're going to have friends. You're going to have a daughter. You're going to love your life. But heartbreak is a break. Like it won't heal the same way.
It will change you.
Yeah. And so I just want to describe the scene because I do think it's so important. So Pierce Brosnan and Meryl Streep, who have broken up 20 years prior because she found out that he was engaged while they were dating, are standing on a rock formation a little bit out at sea of an island off the coast of Greece proper. Like, they are kind of in the middle of the ocean, but in this beautiful seascape. And he comes up to her saying, I want to talk to you. And she interrupts and says, like, I can't talk about this. You hurt me. And the winner takes it all. Like, you have all the power. I don't want to talk to you. But she screams, sings it into the wind, and she looks amazing. And her shawl.
Oh, that shawl.
The shawl is just doing this like incredible costume work, and she's whipping it around and wrapping herself in it. And so it's camp, but to me, this is just like, right, this is opera. It's melodrama, and in the cathartic way that melodrama can work. And so to me, that's what this movie is saying about love, is that it's not everything, but it can change you.
Yeah, that it can be larger than life.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me as I was watching it, but hearing you describe it, I also think that there's an interesting visual continuity between the scarf work in Money, 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 where she's standing at the prow of a ship and has this like over the top infinite scarf. And that song is about like a kind of fantasy of what love can be that is both about sort of fantasizing about wealth and comfort, but is also deliberately disengaged with the emotional stakes of love, right? It's just like, you'll have a boat and a captain's hat, and that's what a man is for. And so the way that the scarf comes back in The Winner Takes It All, but it's smaller and it's closer to her body and it's red, right? So there's this sense like that it visually reproduces in a very operatic way, you know, the image of a bleeding wound, like scarves used to represent blood on stage as a sort of theatrical vocabulary. So like there's something really in that moment where it's taking a step back and saying like, yeah, all of this has been over the top and goofy and slapstick in moments or farcical in moments, right? Like the three bows being snuck in and hidden, like it's got a real sort of stage farce feel to it. And then we've got this monologue delivered in song that is the moment that says like, no, there's something really at stake here.
Yeah.
There's something really deep and true at stake here. Like when you let people in, they can really, really hurt you.
I love what you said, that it's big and it's serious. And from the outside, other people's heartbreak doesn't always look serious.
Yeah.
But inside, when you're heartbroken, it is everything. And so this movie externalizes that internal feeling, I think, so beautifully. Yeah. I also just have to say, I watched this movie with my kids and we were watching Money, Money, Money. And my 12-year-old during that scarf thing went, that's awesome. I want a scarf on a boat.
It is awesome. Yeah. They're right. I came very close to choosing that scene for our Patreon bonus. I didn't choose it, but I came very close because the part where she takes the captain's hat off and puts it on her own head is very important to me. While
growling, right? She goes, oh, like it's very growly. It's so good. The one other thing that I think that this movie says about love is that financial security and love are tied together and maybe shouldn't be. But like, she sings that song, Money, 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 that she wants a husband who can bring her money. And then the love song at the end, when when Donna and Sam have gotten together, one of the opening lines of the song that Sam sings with Here's to All of Us is, and then I'll pay the bill. I do think that this movie is very aware that it's hard to be a single mom.
Yeah.
And it is financially easier if you have a husband.
Yeah, 100%. There is a particular heterosexual logic at work in a lot of romance movies that if I think about it too practically, it starts to fall apart for me because I'm like, okay, yeah, like for sure she needs monetary support. How come her best friend, who's obviously rich because she uses Gold Flake moisturizer, isn't chipping in for the wedding? She
says, do you need a loan to Donna at one point?
Yeah, I mean, alone.
I know.
Just give your friends some money.
I think that this is a heteronormative little world. I don't know if this is how it would actually work, because I feel like I live in a very queer world where my female friends would give me money without even thinking about it. But yeah, though we see a woman offering Donna a friend, a best friend, offer Donna a loan, and then Colin Firth offer her money, and Pierce Brosnan offer her money, right? Yeah. If romance is involved, money signifies something different.
Yeah.
And if kids are involved.
Marriage / co-parenting is the only context in which it's okay to take care of somebody.
Yeah, in which my money is your money.
Yeah, yeah. And sort of that distinction between registers of intimacy, I always just notice it. But one of the things that, like I said, I find tricky to put my finger on about this movie is like, there's the text of like what it's saying about love, but then there's the way it's saying those things that seems to consistently undermine it. So for example, this is a movie that is leading to monogamy for everybody. And that there's this idea that it's like, it's okay in the short term for things to be like fun and sexy and have lots of partners, but we're all headed for marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, that really comes through in the final song when Rosie and Bill are kind of like paired off at the wedding reception, despite having had very few interactions, because it's just like, well, they're still single, and you know what people have to do is they have to match up in monogamous pairings. You know, like there's a conservatism to that. And also, very little in this movie takes itself seriously, in large part because all of the major emotional beats are being communicated via ABBA songs. They're over the top, campy, often nonsensical songs.
I do not know of what you speak. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
That's part of the pleasure of them, right?
Of course. Waterloo as a metaphor for romance.
Part of the pleasure of like Swedish pop is its slightly estranged relationship to English. Uh-huh. So there's just this way that things like don't quite have to make sense. It's mostly just vibe. But like, that's a lot of what's going on in this movie is like, yeah, these two are going to get together in the end. Why? It's just kind of the vibe of this song.
And like a line at the end of the movie, right, is Meryl Streep, Donna, saying to a minister, I haven't slept with hundreds of men. This is not a prudish movie, even though it has this conservative ending.
Yeah. And so I know this is a bit early, but can I hit the emergency stop button and we can talk about camp a little bit just to make sure people know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to draw here primarily on Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp because it's like the major like canonical text about camp. But in general, camp is an aesthetic mode, a kind of performance. It's historically associated with queer culture, but its affiliation with queer culture is complex. But like drag is a major form of camp. Mm-hmm. And it's a kind of performance or performativity that draws attention to the fact that it's performative and in so doing subverts the meaning of the thing being performed. So if we think about drag, for example, a lot of drag performs quite a stereotyped, even conservative notion of femininity, but it is subverting the idea of what a woman is in the first place in a way that renders that performance of femininity subversive by drawing attention to the fact that it's a performance. So Sontag talks about camp as a few different things, and I'm just going to draw out a few that I think are applicable to this movie in particular. So she describes camp as an aesthetic phenomenon. Mm-hmm. She writes, quote, camp is the consistently aesthetic experience of the world. It incarnates a victory of style over content, aesthetics over morality, of irony over tragedy, end quote. And this is also important, that camp is like a little apolitical because it's interested in the surfaces of things rather than like the deep meanings of things. Camp is really interested in artifice. So one point that Sontag makes is that nothing in nature can be campy.
I don't know. Have you seen some birds? They seem to be drawing attention. They're like, it's ridiculous that I can fly, right? And you're like, yeah.
Well, this is the thing. The recontextualization of nature can be campy. So she describes camp as over the top and writes, quote, "The hallmark of camp is the spirit of extravagance. Camp is a woman walking around in a dress made of 3 million feathers," end quote. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
yeah,
maybe the bird in its natural habitat isn't campy, but take the bird out and turn it into a woman walking around with 3 million feathers. And it's like, yeah, that's camp, baby. It is playful. That's really important, that the point of camp is not being serious. It's specifically anti-serious. It is a perspective on the world that sees everything in quotation marks. So it's not a lamp, but a, in scare quotes, lamp. Not a woman, but a, in scare quotes, woman. So it's about understanding things as always playing a role or like doing an impression of themselves. It's winky, right? Mm-hmm. And above all else, camp is a mode of enjoyment. She writes, quote, "Camp is generous. It wants to enjoy," end quote. So there is this possibility, right? Camp is interested in surfaces. It's interested in play. It's interested in performance. It's interested in being over the top. And it's about the surfaces of things. And a lot of camp objects or camp performances, when you begin to dig into them, have sometimes some like conservative or apolitical or depoliticizing impulses to them. But the point of camp as a mode of performance is that you're not supposed to dig in. And that the insistence that the surfaces of things are what matters, and that sort of aesthetic celebration of surfaces is itself doing a kind of cultural work that is, you know, as Sontag and many other people have argued, particularly queer.
Yeah.
A reading of Mamma Mia as camp would say, it's not about love, it's about quote unquote love. Right? It's not about marriage, it's about quote unquote marriage. It's not about fathers, it's about fathers.
I love this. And I think what's fun about Mamma Mia is that it dips in and out of camp, to me, because the song between Donna, Meryl Streep, and Amanda Seyfried, who plays Sophie, the mother-daughter song, right before Sophie is getting married and her mom is helping her get ready. Like, that is not a campy song, right? Like that, you think that's a campy song?
I do think that's a campy song. I think every song in this movie is a campy song.
Oh, I don't. That song strikes me as like very sentimental, straight musical. This is a song about mothers and daughters and about time passing and regret and relationships, and you're watching your kids grow up. Whereas I agree with you, you know, the kids and I showed Casper ter Kuile this movie, and Casper in the middle of the movie was like, Sophie grew up in Greece. Why does she have an American accent?
Great question.
And Amy, my 12-year-old, went, that's not the point. And I think, right, she was saying like, it's camp. Like, it's not trying to be realistic, right? Like, none of this makes sense. That's not why we're here. But I do think that there are moments, it's not campy the whole way through to me in the same way that like Rocky Horror is. I think that this movie is trying to dip in and out.
So one of the things about camp is that it has very little to do with the intention of the art form itself and has a lot more to do with how you're reading it.
Okay, I don't read it as campy.
Yeah, and I do, right? Because, for example, that scene between Donna and Sophie, it is a Hollywood version of what a mother-daughter relationship is. It is a series of cliches about parenting pieced together in a montage in which she puts a Band-Aid on her daughter and styles her hair for her while remembering her going off to school for the first time. That, for me, is about the surfaces of a thing. And that song is not emotionally resonant for me because it doesn't have a lot to do with my experience of my relationship with my mother or my experience of my love and care for children in my life. And part of what keeps it throughout this movie for me a play of surfaces is that, again, every major emotional beat is communicated via an ABBA song. We never get sort of anything more than that. And that's like part of what's campy about a lot of musicals in general, is that all of the major emotional beats being communicated via music makes it all very over the top and deeply aesthetic, like deeply performative, which again doesn't mean that it can't have like profound emotional resonances for some people. I think that's part of what we love about musicals a lot of the time. But the campiness for me helps to explain why a movie that is about women just having fun and fucking around ends with a wedding and everybody getting paired off. And I think it's because the movie doesn't actually care that much about like who gets coupled with who.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I think it's beyond emotional resonance. My instinct is that because film is such a visual medium that it can do so much in addition to the ABBA songs, I would say like a meta-narrative of this movie is that middle-aged women are hot, right? Like older middle-aged women are still hot and have fun. Yeah. Right? Like there's no song in the movie that's like, middle-aged women, we still have fun even though we're 59. I don't think that this movie ever directly takes on like the topic of quote unquote middle age. But I do think you watch this movie and it's about middle age.
Yeah. And I think it's about middle age because of the surfaces. Because Meryl Streep is hot, because Christine Baranski is hot, because Julie Walters is hot, because we're seeing them on screen frequently in delightfully over-the-top costumes that simultaneously evoke their own youth and the aesthetic of the 1970s while also celebrating how hot they continue to be. For me, it's not like, I never want to say like camp is just about surfaces or it's just about performance, right? The just suggests that there's something realer or truer about the sincere, the sentimental, the non-ironic. And I think camp is about the fact that celebrating surfaces is joyful and pleasurable and sometimes politically radical. Like you're saying, like there's something really politically interesting about seeing hot middle-aged women on screen. It's not that politically interesting because they are hot in conventional ways. Yeah, they are middle-aged. They are also thin white women.
I think we should just agree to disagree. I don't think that sincerity is more valuable than camp. I just think that this movie trades both in camp and in sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
And that it, like, I would say, like, goes pretty deftly between the two. But it can absolutely be just, like, in the eye of the beholder. But I think there are moments where it's, like, it's tear-jerking, right? Which is a manipulation of sincerity. It's, like, trying to get tears from me.
Ah. There's not a single moment in this movie that brings me even remotely close to crying. But like, I cry so much during Les Mis. So like that, which I would argue is also campy. So like, I'm not disagreeing that camp can also be tear jerking.
I just think that this goes back and forth. I think it's like, and now we're going to trade on this other medium. And yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll follow you. I love the camp. I'm very moved by the camp, and you all are so pretty. And yeah, I can't wait to be hot and 60.
And everybody's wearing sequins? Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay, so before we get into sequins, we should talk about subtext.
Yes.
And for me, again, like as soon as we start getting below the surface of things, is where this movie kind of falls apart for me. That's part of why I want to live in the camp space of it, because I can enjoy this movie a lot more when I stay on the surface in the camp appeal. As soon as I start sort of pulling it apart and being like, but what are you actually saying? I'm like, oh no, it's very bad. So one of those things is that it does seem to say that without men, your life is doomed to become very small, as in you literally are stuck on a tiny island all alone.
Yes, but it also gives some counter narratives to that, right? Like Tanya ends up single at the end of the movie, and she has a big life, right? Like she's divorced and has money and is fabulous and like rubbing herself in gold flakes.
She has a big life because she married a lot of men and those men made her life big. You know, she got her new boobs from husband number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that is continuous with the general idea that like you need a man in order to have access to resources and mobility and for your life to be expanded and to be free. That men make you free by opening up the world for you, which like if we go another sublayer deeper, we could say is a scathing critique of the patriarchy, but I don't think this movie takes us there.
I think that this movie lives, like if subtext is a foot deep, I think that this movie takes us at most 6 inches deep, right? Like,
yeah.
Because like it doesn't even add up with plot. You're like, when were you all a singing troupe? You all are 60 and apparently had babies at 20. But she's only 20, right? Like you can't get too deep.
So simply the numbers don't add up.
The numbers don't add up.
You're not supposed to be thinking about them that much.
That's not the point, to quote Amy. Mm-hmm. So to me, right, like this 6-inch deep subtext, because I agree with you. Once you get a foot deep, you're like, oh no, oh no, where are we? Why? It's just that like friendship is where you get your fun and support, and men are where you get financial security and sex.
Yep.
That's the vibe I'm writing throughout this movie.
It really is the vibe. Is like, you can have fun with your girlfriends, but if you want your life to involve the ability to actually do anything, to travel, to, you know, be comfortable, you will need a man.
But I do think that it thinks you need a man, but that you need your specific friends.
I think Donna getting back together with what's his face at the end suggests that there is a specific man, right? Like there's one guy for her and it's Sam. There's one guy for Sophie and it's
yeah.
Zach Braff. What's his name?
Dominic Cooper.
Sky.
All brown-haired men are Zach Braff.
Yeah, all brown-haired twinks are Zach Braff.
Hannah, what I remember most, you know, subtext about this is this movie came out, and I was in South America when this movie came out, and I was mad that I'd booked my flight poorly so that I couldn't see this on opening day. And I landed back in the United States, and my mom picked me up from the airport, and she took off the day from work to pick me up from the airport because I'd been gone for a while. And she was like, sweetie, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go see Mamma Mia. And she was like, do you want to go home and shower first? I hadn't showered in days. I was like, no, ma'am, I do not. I want to go straight to the movie theater, and I want to see Mamma Mia. And literally, it starts sparkling. And I was like, they made this for me. They made it for me. It felt like they were saying, we are going to entertain you from the moment you sit down in a way that makes you feel safe and glamorous. And I really had not had that experience in a movie theater before that resonated. And like that could be where I'm bringing some of the sentiment. But like it felt like everyone in this movie is styled towards sort of my eye, right? Like the women are dressed sexy, but not for the male gaze. It's overalls and like cute oversized shirts. And Sophie is just ready to go swimming at a moment's notice.
She's always wearing a bathing suit and a skirt so that at any point she can jump into the ocean.
I love it so much, Hannah. But it's like not like she's in a skimpy bikini.
Mm-hmm.
She's in an adorable one piece that's like so practical. And that to me is like the overall gift of this movie is I was like, they just weren't thinking about my brothers, which like every other movie felt like they were thinking about my brothers. And I was like invited along and it felt like they were thinking about me. And what was wild to me is then a couple of weeks later, I went and saw Sex and the City and it had the same sparkles. So this felt like the movie that was like of this moment where it feels like 2008 was a minute where people were like, women go to movies.
Yeah.
And even though financially it stayed true, Colleen Hoover is bringing women to the movies, this movie was a minute in time where studio executives thought women would go to the movies, that it would be a financial good return on investment to invest in women going to the movies, and that this movie figured out how to do it authentically to itself. It is entirely being itself and serving me, and it feels like a minor miracle.
Yeah. It's a rare experience to have a movie that feels like it is exactly for you without pandering to you, that it just understands you and what you want. You know, my equivalent moment of that was the first time I saw Mad Max Fury Road in theaters, and turned to my friend Neil when the movie was over and sort of screamed at him, "Is this what it's like to be a man?"
Yeah.
It's like you watch things that are just for you and you feel so good after.
Yeah, a friend of mine was sobbing after Wonder Woman and was like, Chris Pine was the girl and I was the boy. And it just like felt so good for her. And I was like, yes, I had that moment with Mamma Mia.
Yeah. No, it is really interesting to think about these moments when studios acknowledge, however briefly, that there might be an audience that is not teenage boys, and thus that it might be possible to make a movie that is not about superheroes. And it's like, oh, I'm here. I exist.
Yeah. And it really just is that feeling of, well, at least now the focus groups care that, quote unquote, I exist. Like someone is thinking about me as a market share, right?
Yeah. Go the ambivalent progress of becoming a market share.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, we did it.
Exactly. But then Mamma Mia 2 got made, and I love that even more. So I was like, this feels like a moment where me becoming part of the market share felt like a win.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And when it comes to having access to the products that you want, becoming part of the market share is a win.
Yeah.
Like, I am very glad that some fashion companies made the decision to acknowledge that fat people exist. Because we are part of the market share. Like, and I don't mistake being part of the market share for fat liberation. I don't mistake being able to get clothes in my size for the undermining of our profound cultural fat phobia that leads to the death of fat people from medical neglect. But I do like being able to buy pants.
Exactly. And Hannah, to me, this starts right off of the gate, right? Like one of the first things that we see is Sophie. It's Sophie's wedding. And we do not first see Sophie with her fiance. We first see Sophie with her two best friends having come in, running toward her. They scream, right, when they see each other. And I have a friend whose husband doesn't like when I come to visit because he says that my friend and I are too loud when we laugh and that we scream when we're together too much.
Cool.
Yeah, I love him. And she's great. And she's like, come over anyway and let's be loud and he can go out. But like, I've had multiple people tell me that, right? That I'm loud, that I'm screechy. I've had a man wrote in recently that he found my voice annoying.
Wow. Thanks for the feedback, dude.
Yeah. But like, this is a movie that like loves women screeching.
Loves when women scream.
And I'm just
but
like,
in a
yes.
nice way.
Yeah. When they scream for joy.
With
this
joy.
Movie's like,
yeah.
And like scream and dance and sing and get sweaty and get into clothes that are too tight for them. I mean, my most favorite scene is Super Trooper. So Donna has a reunion with her two best friends to sing to her daughter.
At her daughter's hen do.
And they are in clothes that they haven't worn for 20 years. But it's not like, ugh, I've gotten fat and I feel gross in these. It's like, I've gotten more comfortable in my body. It's all just played for joy and laughs. We're never laughing at the women.
Yeah. The beginning of that scene where they come out on stage and they a cappella harmonize the opening, and it's not great.
Yeah.
And everybody in the audience is so thrilled.
Yes.
Like that is maybe for me the most relatable moment is like if three of my friends came out in disco costumes and did like a kind of bad job of a cappella harmonizing, I would be like screaming and ripping my shirt off.
Yes.
Like, it's all you want. It's all you want to see.
it's just, this is a movie that gets that, right?
Yeah.
And like these women in their too tight clothes that like, women in their 60s shouldn't be wearing that. Nobody is thinking that. Everybody is like, this is awesome, including, and this is right, both conservative and awesome. You have these three men show up to like validate that this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know that this is objectively awesome because three handsome older white men think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I do think they are beside the point. This movie thinks Donna and the Dynamos, even when they're off key, are awesome.
Yeah. And part of how it shows us that is by giving them an audience of women screaming with joy.
Yes, exactly. And that women's joy matters. Women's joy is a kind of affirmation that matters.
Yes. Yes.
I love this movie. I talked myself back into how much I love this movie.
Okay. All right. In that case, on the note of loving this movie and wanting other people to watch this movie, Vanessa, finish this sentence. You should watch this movie if
you love overalls half as much as I do, and watching Meryl Streep be able to jump like a basketball player. She does so much jumping in this movie, and she's so good at it. Hannah, what about you? You should watch this movie if
you fantasize about living a life where you spontaneously break into choreographed dance numbers when doing boring chores. I love a spontaneous dance number.
Absolutely.
I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about more of the dance numbers in the next episodes.
Next week, we are going to be talking about the end of this movie. Hannah, thanks for watching one of the greatest movies of all time with me. We would be remiss if, when talking about Mamma Mia, we didn't spend a little bit of time thinking about ABBA and the amazing power group that allowed this movie to come into creation. So to that end, we are going to get the world's lead ABBA historian on the phone, Carl Magnus Palm. Carl has written 9 books on ABBA, including ABBA, The Complete Recording Sessions, and Bright Lights, Dark Shadows, the definitive biography of ABBA. And he has been heavily involved in reissuing the band's music, both on CD and DVD. Let's get Carl on the phone. Hi, Carl.
Hi there.
I'm so excited that you're here. I love ABBA so much. I love ABBA, and so I'm very jealous of your career. I am wondering if you could please just tell us a little bit about their origin story. I know that they were on Eurovision. What was the first global reaction to them? Were people like, this is special, or were they like, these are weird Swedish people?
I think the reaction was a bit of both, because this was early to mid 1970s, and this group from Sweden, of all places, come here and...
Is that even a real country?
Exactly. Is it Sweden? Is it Switzerland? Which is which, So people, I guess, were a bit confused as to where to place them, in the popular music spectrum.
And they won with Waterloo, which you're like, what is this song even about, right? I feel like it must have been pretty confusing.
It was, for Eurovision, it was really a new thing, because previous to that, it had been sort of perky, up-tempo, nice little tunes, or, very dramatic ballads performed by ladies in evening gowns and men in tuxedos or, nice suits. And here come ABBA with this glam rock song, dressed up like some creatures from outer space or whatever. Yeah. So it really made a splash.
So if people started out with some confusion, what was their trajectory to just worldwide stardom and adoration? How did we get there?
So what happened after Eurovision is that Waterloo became a global hit, even in places like the United States, where Eurovision didn't mean a thing at the time, which proved that they, ABBA and the songwriters Björn and Benny, etc., were able to produce music that worked outside Scandinavia, shall we say. After that, there was a bit of a backlash. There was a bit of a slump, because if you come from Eurovision, you're supposed to have one hit and then just disappear. Yeah, so the international music industry really didn't want to accept them. And it was only about 18 months later that they had a real comeback with songs like SOS and Mamma Mia. And then people realized, okay, this isn't a flash in the pan Eurovision one-hit wonder. This is a real pop group, and they're taking their music seriously.
Okay, so now I want to transition to gossip. It was two married couples, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then both couples divorced?
That is also correct.
How did that impact their music and their careers?
The first couple in ABBA to divorce was Björn and Agneta. This was in 1979. They announced their divorce. And everyone was like, oh, but they're in the same group. Now ABBA must split up. Surely they can't go on making music together. But they said, well, ABBA is one thing. That's not the problem. The problem is our relationship. It doesn't work anymore. But we want to continue making music. And then 2 years later, in 1981, the same thing happened to Benny and Frida. And now I say, well, two divorced couples, they couldn't possibly go on working, but they could. But obviously what had happened within the group started coloring the music. You can see it in the lyrics. There's a song called If It Wasn't for the Nights, for instance, which is all about, during the daytime, I'm all right because I have my work and I have this and I have that I want to do. But in the nighttime, it's awful because then, I spend the night crying, basically. Or you have The Winner Takes It All, which is a song about people splitting up and the pain of that. It wasn't a literal depiction of what had happened between Björn and Agneta, but there was an emotional truth in there that they both could recognize. And when Agneta read the lyrics, because she sang them, Björn wrote the lyrics and Agneta sang them. And when she read them for the first time in the studio, she started crying a bit because she was so hit by the emotional power in them.
It's like the greatest breakup song of all time. So I'm not glad that they got divorced, but thank you for creating something beautiful out of it. So switching now to talking about Mamma Mia, the musical, how involved was ABBA in the making of Mamma Mia, the musical?
There wasn't a great deal of involvement to start with. There was someone else, a producer they knew, who had this idea that there must be a way to take the ABBA songs and turn them into a musical. But Björn in ABBA, he was the one who sort of really, this could actually be something. So he got more engaged eventually, and then Benny, the two ladies, I don't think they were ever really involved in the creative part of it.
What does that mean that Benny and Björn were involved? Were they coming up with the plot? Were they making new arrangements for the songs in the musical? What did their involvement look like?
Björn and Benny were initially very skeptical as to the possibilities of making a musical out of the old ABBA songs. So they said, well, if you can come up with a good story, sure, we'll have a look at it. And then someone did, Catherine Johnson, and she had this great story about a mother and a daughter and a wedding and all that. And they had a look at that, Björn and Benny did, and said, well, this might actually work. Yeah, go ahead with it. Go ahead, develop it, which they did. And Björn got really hands-on. He attended the rehearsals. He tweaked some of the lyrics just slightly so that they would work better in terms of plot and all that. And then when the musical really became a reality, and especially when they were turned into movies, I think Benny got really involved as well, because he's very, very protective of the music and that the arrangements should be right. Even if they're modernized, they should feel like, okay, this is something we can be behind. We can we feel that this is still ABBA music, so to speak, so that it didn't get to be sort of modern techno arrangements of SOS or anything like that. So their involvement grew and their enthusiasm for the project grew with every new stage of it.
I think that there's an understanding that like Benny and Bjorn as the songwriters were like the real talent behind the group, and that Agneta and Frida were sort of lucky to be along for the ride. And I'm wondering how much that myth is true. Was it like these were male geniuses and they were women who were lucky to be there, or were Agneta and Frida really essential to what we now know as ABBA?
Agneta and Frida, the two women in ABBA, were 100% essential to the group. They were super important, and Bjorn and Benny are the first to acknowledge this. I mean, they say, of course, the ABBA sound, the ABBA style is about the songs we wrote, it's about the way they were played and recorded, but 90% of oral identity, if you will, is Agneta and Frida and their singing. And it's also very important to remember that it wasn't like, Bjorn and Benny wrote the songs, the girls came to the studio to add the vocals, and Bjorn and Benny said, sing this, sing that, do it like this, do it like that. No. I've heard session tapes where you can really tell how important they were in creating these songs, coming up with ideas on how to sing a certain word, emphasize syllables, and, I have an idea for a harmony thing we could do here. I have an idea for like a certain inflection or whatever. So they were super important in every sense of the word for ABBA's identity as a music group.
That was the right answer. How did the musical impact them? I guess what I'm really thinking about is like my daughters and I love both Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2. And they're 12 and 17 and they are huge ABBA fans also, right? So like they first knew the musicals and now they've gone back and listened to the original ABBA recordings. Do you think that that is how ABBA is going to be remembered for future generations? Like in part because of the musical?
I think the musical and the two movies have been incredibly important in keeping ABBA's legacy alive. Whether you like them, the musical and the movies or not is sort of beside the point, because I can see, I've been doing this for decades now, and it's constantly new generations coming up year after year after year. People who weren't even born, their parents weren't even born, when ABBA were at the height of their popularity.
Carl, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I love ABBA, and I love that you have spent so much of your career really studying and honoring this really important group.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. I was happy to be on this.
You've been listening to Hot and Bothered. We are a very, very small show, and we love making this. So we really appreciate your support. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/hotandbotheredmompod. We are a Not Sorry production. I'm the executive producer, and we are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. We are distributed by Acast. We like to thank, as always, our soulmate level patrons, Molly Reilly, who we would chase through an airport to declare our love to, Becky Boo, who we would wait for hours on the top of the Empire State Building for, Elizabeth Schweinsberg, whose heart we would play a game of one-on-one basketball for, Lauren Byer O'Connell, who we would call up on stage to dance with us in front of the whole summer camp, Avi Lichtenstein, who we would make every person in the kingdom try on a shoe for, Kristen Hall, who we would travel through a time portal to spend the 19th century with, Sherry Yadlin, who we would write a sonnet about and read it in front of the whole class, Delia Rose, who we were majorly, totally, but crazy in love with, and Leia Goldberg, who we would carry on our backs as we jumped from tree to tree like a little spider monkey. And our wonderful team, Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Ramos, Courtney Brown, Anissa Ahmed, Danny Langley, and Stephanie Paulsell.